Hello and welcome back to the Complete Web Dev series. In this chapter we are building a content management system. In the last video we had finished up our login for our application, and in this video what we're going to do is finish at least do most of our logout, and we're going to add some menu items that will be dynamic if they are logged in or logged out. So I'm going to switch over to my screen and get going because this may take a little bit. One thing I'm going to do here is check and create a new branch. So our last video was v26, so I'm going to go ahead and create a new branch off of main here by typing git checkout -b v27. Once we have that, I'm going to go ahead and do a git push --set -upstream and set the origin to v27 to create this branch on my remote host on GitHub. And that way you guys can follow along, and at the end of this video I'm going to go ahead and push that, and any code that we do in this video will be in that branch. Okay, so what we're going to do then is switch over here to our editor, and before we do that, actually let's go to here and just show you. I think what we'll do is on the right side of this menu we're going to add a drop down if they're logged in that they can click on, and it'll have a few different links in there. If they're not, then it's just going to be a link that tells them to log in. So let's go ahead and get started with that. The first thing that we want to be able to do is let's decide if they are well, let's add the menu items. So if you go to app, go down to views and then partials, and then open up main menu. All right, so the main menu here is pretty straightforward. We just copied some of this from the Bootstrap website, but what we're going to do is at the very top of the file we're going to go ahead and add some PHP up here. And the first thing we're going to add here, just put the PHP tags, open them, and then skip down a few lines and close them. And then let's go ahead and say use, and then we're going to say use core \h so that we can use our dump and die, and then let's just do an h : dump and die, and let's dump and die our current user. Okay, and current user is going to be set up in the index.php right here. So current user is set in the index.php file. And so right here it's going to say that it's not, well, I got the semicolon on the inside there, but we're still going to have a problem, and maybe let's check it. I want to show you this. I'm going to refresh here, and you can see that it says that there's an undefined variable current user. And that is because in this current scope of this main menu, there isn't a current user. However, all we need to do here is right above this, we're going to use the global keyword, and we're going to type in current user. Now since, current user. Now, because we set it up in the index and we're calling all of our stuff from this index file, this is set in the global scope. Okay, so let's go ahead now and refresh that. And now you can see that we do in fact have a logged in user here, and you can see the current user that's logged in is Tony Parham with an ID of 6. Okay, so we have that now to use inside of our menu. So let's go ahead and get rid of this dump and die, and we're just going to leave this global current user up here at the top. And what we're going to do is down here, if you look at the UL, this is our actual nav bar nav item. And what we want to do here is add underneath that closing UL, we're going to add another UL here with a class of navbar -nav, and then we're going to do another class of dflex. Okay, once we've done that, we have this UL here, and let's just go ahead and add some stuff in here. So the first thing that we want to do is I think what I want to do is create a helper to do these nav links, just to make it a little nicer for us to use later on. And so we are going to actually create a helper to do that. So go to core and open up H, our helper file here. And let's create a method called Nav Item. Okay, and this is going to be pretty straightforward. It's going to be really similar to our form helpers, where we are going to create some HTML and then return that. So we'll do a public static function, and we're going to call this Nav Item. And this is going to take a link parameter and then a label param. And then let's pass one in called is drop down item. And that's going to be set to false by default. Okay, that's all the parameters that will take. And then let's do just notice that it looks like we need. Let's open up the index for the main index here, and let's do another. Let's see here. Right here, before we do the route. Let's go ahead and set a new variable called current page, and we're just gonna set that equal to URL. There we go. And then what we're gonna do in here, let's create another static function that we're gonna need to make this work the way that we want. And that will be public static function active class. And this is going to take a page and a class, and the class by default is going to be an empty string here. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to say active is going to be equal to well, hang on, we're going to need another function as well. So we're going to need 3 functions here. So we're going to do a public static function is current page, and that's going to take a page. Okay, now this should be all the boilerplate we need to do this nav item. So we need to find out if they're on the current, if the link is the current page that they're on. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to call global current page, okay, and then we're going to say if not empty page, okay, and the string position of page ID is greater than -1. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say test is equal to string replace, and we're going to replace ID with an empty string on the page like this. And then what we're going to do is return string position of current page page, and we're going to say is that greater than -1. And then what we're going to do is underneath this if statement, we're just going to say return page is equal to current page. Now, let's just slow down for a second and figure out what we're doing here. This function is going to return a boolean of either true or false. And we want to know, basically we're creating this function to know whether or not the page that the user is currently visiting matches the link of our menu item. That way, we can highlight, the goal of this is to be able to put an active class on that link so that it's highlighted in some way, so it's easier for the user to know where they are in relationship to the menu items, right? So the thing is sometimes we're going to have this ID bound into this, and we need to remove that, and so that's why we're doing this. Now, let's see. Although this might not be necessary. Let's see. Don't worry about this logic. I'm going to explain this logic when we actually use it. But it's pretty much going to get down to this part here. And this is just going to return if the page that we're passing in is equal to the current page. So this is the main line that's going to run now. I don't want to confuse you guys yet with this yet because we haven't used that just yet. So once we use that, I think it'd be a lot easier to explain that. So let's skip that for now. And then let's go to this active class. And the active class is going to be pretty easy because now we can just say active is equal to self is current page. And then we're just going to pass the page down into that. And then the class itself is going to be a ternary operator. And we'll just say, hey, if it's active, then we're going to return the class. Any class that we pass in, which is by default an empty string, and then we can concatenate on the active like this with the space at the beginning. Don't forget the space at the beginning, okay? And what that's going to do is allow us to pass in another class to the nav item if we want, and it will concatenate active onto it as a new class. Then we're just going to return class. So it could be an empty string. So this right here, and we're just going to return class. All this method is responsible for is building a string of the class, and if it's the current page, it's just gonna concatenate active onto that. Okay, so a pretty simple mechanism there. So let's go ahead now and build this nav item, and so we're gonna say active is equal to self is current page, and we're gonna pass the link down through that. Okay. And then we're going to say class is equal to self yeah, you can either do self or H. We'll do self active class, and then what we're going to do is we're going to pass in the link, and then we're going to pass in the class, and these are going to have a class by default of nav item. So what's going to happen is this nav item is going to come through here, and it's going to be nav item and active if the current page matches. Else it's just going to be nav item. Okay, so that is good there. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say the link class, whoops, let me spell that right. The link class will be equal, we'll do another ternary, we'll say is drop down item, and if that's true, then it's going to be drop down item, else it's just going to be nav dash item, or I'm sorry, nav dash link. And then we're going to also add to the link class a concatenate equal, and we're going to say, hey, if it's active and it is a drop down item, then we need to do something extra, and we're just going to say active, else we're just going to concatenate on an empty string. All right, then what we're going to do is we're going to say link is equal to our root of our project, and then we're going to concatenate on our link to that. Now we can start building out the HTML, and the HTML is going to be equal to an li, and this li is going to have a class equal to backslash double quote backslash double quote to escape those, and then we're going to pass in the class just like that, as a string literal. Then let's add on to the HTML with a concatenate equals, and we're going to create the link. So it's an A with a class equal to, same thing, and then we're going here. We're actually going to do link class, okay? And then we'll do an href. Oops, I got outside of there. We'll do an href equal to backslash, and then that will be our link variable. Then what we're going to do is we're going to actually close the link, and then, oops, I didn't mean to do that. And then we're going to have the label as a, right there, and then we're going to close the link like that. So that will build out our link. The next thing that we need to do is just concatenate on our closing li. So this is just builds up the HTML string, and it will take care of handling the active class because of these. Okay, so I know that was a little bit of a detour, but let's go use that now, and we'll see how easy it is to add that to our menu. So let's go back to the main menu, and right here in this UL that we created, let's go ahead and do a PHP if statement, and we're going to say if not current user, and then we'll do a colon, close the PHP tag, skip down a few lines, open PHP back up, and we'll do an end if semicolon, and then anything that goes in between here is only going to happen in the if statement. So here what we're going to do is we're going to do an we're going to echo out the nav item. So go ahead and close that. And then the nav item, we're just going to pass in our link. So this will be our auth login link. And then we'll do a comma, and our label is just going to be log space in. Okay, and that's it. And that will add a nav item. But now, of course, this right here, there is a current user, so this won't show up. So let's go ahead and just for time being to test it, let's remove that negatives there and go back here and refresh. And you can see this login right there. So that is, we only want that to show up though if there's not a current user logged in. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that back. Then underneath this if statement, we're going to do another one, and we could do an if else here, but we'll just do another if statement. So we'll say if there is a current user, like this, then we'll do a colon, skip down a few lines, and then we'll do a closing PHP, our closing end if with a semicolon. And then in here, what we're going to do is we're going to add an li with a class of nav item, and then with a class of drop down. Okay. And then in here, we are going to add a link, and this link is going to have a class of nav link and a class of drop down toggle. Oops. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and break this down to another line here. And in here, let's just give it an href of a hashtag. And then we need to give this a few more things. This is going to need an ID, and we're going to give it an ID of, let's call this the account dropdown. Okay. And then this is going to have a role of button and the data toggle. And this data toggle is used by the JavaScript in Bootstrap to target this. It's going to be drop down. And then we're going to do area expanded equals to false. That's for screen readers. All right, and then in this A tag here, we're just going to say hello, and we'll do a space, and we'll concatenate, or I'm sorry, we will echo out current user f name. So this will echo out their first name. So it'll say hello Curtis, or in this case, since we have Tony logged in, it'll say hello Tony. And then underneath this a tag, but still inside this li, what we need to do here is we're going to add a ul, and this will have a class of drop down dash menu, and another class of drop down dash menu dash right to right align it. Okay, and I'm also going to add an area label labeled by, and this will be our matching account drop down. Okay, then what we're going to do, and what's happening here, area labeled by, oh, I see, I'm missing my double quote right there. All right, and inside this UL, we are going to do a nav item. So we'll go ahead and echo out the H nav item. And this nav item is going to be, go to our, we're going to have an admin portal. So we'll just call this admin / articles. Okay, and then we're going to give it another parameter, and this will be our label. We'll just call this author portal. And then we give it a third parameter called true to let it know that it is a drop-down item. Okay. Then what we're going to do is let's add an li, and inside this li we're going to do it HR with a class of drop-down divider, like that. Okay. Then after that divider, we're going to do another nav item. And this time it's going to go to auth logout. And this is going to be our logout button. And the label for that will be logout. And then this will also be a drop-down item, so we pass true as a third parameter. Okay, and that's it for now. One thing I'd like to do, just to make this look a little nicer, is this top UL up here. I want to add a couple more classes to this. So let's add MR auto, for margin right auto, MY LG0, and then we're going to do nav bar nav scroll. Let me save that. Let's go back now. Okay, now that puts this over here, and we have hello Tony, and if we open it up, we have the author portal and the logout. Now, of course, the author portal and the logout is going to break because we haven't built those yet. So let's build the logout one. That's going to be super quick. In order to do that, let's open up our app controllers auth controller, and we need to create a new action. So underneath this login action here, let's create a new action. So public function, and this will be logout action. And then in the logout action, all we're going to need to do is, well, we're going to do a couple things, but it's going to be super easy compared to our other action. We're going to get the global scope user. So we're going to say global current user. And then we're going to say if there is a current user, then we're going to do current user log out. Okay, we'll need to create that, which isn't bad. And then after that, what we're going to do is, after this if statement, we're going to do a router redirect, and we're going to redirect them to the auth login page. Okay. And that's it for this logout action. We don't need a view or anything like that to handle this logout. So I think we're good to go there. The next thing we need to do is actually create this logout function. So if you go to the app models users model, why is this squiggly? I don't know why that's squiggly. It works. So anyway, not worried about that just yet. We're going to create a new method in here called logout. This is also going to be a very quick method here. So let's go ahead and knock that out. I'm just going to put it underneath this login from cookie. So it'll be public function logout. And the first thing we're going to do is delete our session. So we'll say session delete. And then we called that the logged in user. The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to set the self $_current user equal to false. Then what we're going to do is we're going to say session is equal to user sessions find by user ID, and we're going to find it by this ID. And then if there is a session, so we're going to say if session, then what we're going to do is say session delete, like that. Then we're going to remove the cookie. So underneath this if check, we just need to say cookie delete, and then we're going to pass in the config get login cookie name, and that's it. So this will delete the session from our PHP session. It's going to set the current user to false. That's the static current user here. And then it's going to set the session equal to user sessions. And it's going to, if that exists, it's going to try to find it in our database by the ID. It's going to delete that to clean up the database. And then it's going to delete our cookie in our browser. So let's test this. First of all, you can see that I do have this cookie here. And then in the database, if you go to user sessions, Tony has this row right here. So if all goes well, it should delete this row with the ID of 2. And it should also delete this top cookie here. So let's go ahead now and just click this and click log out. And you can see that we end up at the login screen. And if you look down here, our cookie's gone. So that's a good sign. Now let's go here and see if it actually deleted that row, and it did. So we know that our log out functionality is working correctly. Let's look in the menu. So now there's no current user. So what we can do is click login here, and that takes us back to where we already are. But if we were at, say, at the home screen or whatever, we could click this login, and now we're here. And once we log in, so let's log in as Curtis and hit login. Now we're logged in, and over here it says hello Curtis, and I can log out of Curtis. But now I should get, oh, I didn't do the remember me, so let me log out. I'm gonna log in as Curtis again, but this time I'm gonna do the remember me, hit login. And now you can see I have a new cookie, and there should be a updated row here for user 7. See, it gave me a new hash, and so we're good to go there. And that's it. That's it for logging out. And this is all I wanted to accomplish in the menu to make it dynamic based upon whether or not you're logged in or not. And we can see that our log out functionality is working correctly. So I hope that makes sense. Just real quick, I'll briefly go over the flow again, because I know I moved a little quick in some of it. the main menu, what we did is we accessed the global user, which is found in the index.php, and we set that right here. So this gets set in a global scope, and then we also set the current page so that we can know if we're on the current page or not. Now, if we go back here, you can see that this is now highlighted. And if I log out and you go to log in, you can see that log in is highlighted. If I click on that and go to inspect, you'll see that it has the active class on this nav item. And that's because of our function that we created here in the H here for nav item. We actually were able to use these is current page, is active class, and nav item to construct a nav item in our menu and know if it's equal to our current page, and we could drop it in the active class if it is. Now, if you look at our main menu, we have hard-coded the this home. So this right now is set to active, so that shows up, but we'll go ahead and solve that. In fact, what we could do here, just to set our minds at ease, is we could do another H nav item, and then we'll just pass in for home, we're going to do blog index, and then it will be home here, and then we can actually get rid of this whole section right here for now, and then we'll deal with the rest of this in a little while. But now you can see home is here and it's not highlighted. But if we went to, let's say, blog index, it is highlighted. Okay, we'll handle the difference between that not showing up and this not being highlighted, as opposed to this where it's blog index. We're gonna do a little more logic there, I think, to fix that issue, but you can see that that works just fine. So let me go back here and log Curtis in, and I just want to double check the logout without the remember me cookie to make sure nothing breaks. So let's go back here and log out real quick, and we are good to go. All right, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this. I will see you guys in the next video. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and if you have any issues, go ahead and check out the branch, and you can see how your code compares to mine. And yeah, so let's go ahead and push that up to GitHub real quick. So if I go here and do a git status, you'll see all the modified files that are not staged, and I'll do a git add period to stage all those. Now if I do a git status, you can see that these are ready to be committed. So I'm going to do a git commit -m to do an inline message, and we're going to say log out. Oops, let me spell that better. All right, and then what we're going to do is do a git push, and now you guys can access that code. I'm going to go ahead and merge this into main as well, which you don't have to do. Whoops, I'm going to do checkout main and do git merge v27, and I'm going to go ahead and push that. Alright guys, well that's it for tonight. I hope you guys are enjoying the series so far. I hope you're learning and seeing how this can be a very powerful way to do programming. However, I still don't expect you to see the full benefit of it yet, because it's still a lot of code to accomplish things that we can usually do a little faster and with less code with procedural. But I promise you, as we start building out the actual application we're building, the CMS part, you're going to start seeing how little lines of code we have to write for each controller and view and model and stuff. So I think you'll enjoy it. And I'm enjoying this series so far. You know, I feel a little crazy, to be honest, that I decided to do this beginner to job ready thing, because I'm like 130 videos in or something crazy at this point, and I'm like halfway through. So I have a lot of work to do to keep shooting these, and so I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope it pays off, and I hope that you guys can improve the quality of your life through better employment and higher paying jobs. Well, with that, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.